Pode ser o Grupo Corpo ou a Companhia de Dança do Pantanal. Museu de Arte Moderna de São Paulo ou Arte em Cores. Filarmônica de Minas Gerais ou Programa Vale Música. Restauração do Museu Nacional ou da Cripta da Basílica de Nazaré. Onde tem cultura, a Vale está. Dos projetos que todo mundo já conhece, até aqueles projetos que todo mundo precisa conhecer. A cultura brasileira tem o nosso apoio. É valorizando essa cultura que crescemos e evoluímos juntos. Instituto Cultural Vale.
Olha, eu sempre falo que a música, a arte, a literatura, a dança um complementa ao outro. O porquê disso? Porque tudo ali se encaixa e a Flip ela é essencial para nós paratiense ou para outras pessoas de outras cidades, de outros países, porque a Flip ela é uma coisa global, né? E ela abre portas, ela abre oportunidades para essa pessoa mostrar sua essência, mostrar sua arte, trazer o seu trabalho de perto. E eu, João, assim, no meu pensamento, eu implantaria diversas oficinas nas comunidades, em cada canto, assim, cada canto turístico, assim, da cidade, céu aberto, aonde as pessoas, elas também pudessem contar suas histórias através da literatura, construindo, sabe? Como fosse um livro mesmo, assim, cada um ser autor do seu próprio livro. Então, abriria oficinas, modelo de criação, para incluir, para implantar todas essas pessoas para direcionar e liberar sua arte.
Flip, o encontro da literatura com a cidade. Ministério da Cultura e a Associação Casa Azul apresentam 21ª Flip, Festa Literária Internacional de Paraty. A Flip conta com benefício da Lei de Incentivo à Cultura, Lei Rouanet, PRONAC 231427, e possui acessibilidade para pessoas com deficiência física, visual e auditiva. Tem patrocínio Master, Instituto Cultural Vale. Patrocínio Ouro, Itaú, CCR e Caixa. Patrocínio Prata, o Globo, MAC Imóveis e Sebrae. Patrocínio Bronze, Globo Livros e Eletronuclear. Parceria Institucional SESC. Prefeitura de Paraty, Embratur e Museu do Território. É uma concepção, Associação Casa Azul. Realização, Ministério da Cultura, Governo Federal, Brasil, União e Reconstrução. Flip, o encontro da literatura com a cidade.
You are lovers of literature, theater, and the arts, and Flip thanks you for attending this roundtable. It's extremely special for us. The title of it's taken from an excerpt from Pagu, Theater on the Cliff. It's going to navigate on the issues of literary critique, theater, crossing times, epochs, art issues that we have, and it's going to be chaired by Natalia Brizuela, who is an art critic, professor at the University of California in Berkeley, and the director of the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies in California. So with the Flora, Natalia Brizuela, who's going to chair this session. So let's have a wonderful session. Good morning. How are you doing? Fabulous. Okay, let's begin. I need to thank Flip, the organizers and the team for all the work they put into this edition. I'm really happy to be here with these two brilliant figures. They're wonderful. Marion Aubert, as you know, she's a playwright and French playwright and actress. I read one of her plays, Men Who Fall. It's been translated into Portuguese, and it's launched now at this Flip. Flora Süssekind, who's a literary critic, a cultural critic, and she has written numerous texts and essential works, books, texts for the study and understanding of the Brazilian literary system, but also contemporary culture. I'd like to begin by asking Flora for her to tell us a little bit about the place of theater in your life, in your career, because we know you as a literary critic, but actually theater critic and this theater scene has been following your intellectual life and career as a whole, and our audience may not be familiar with all that. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I've been here at Flip once before in 2007, it was connected to theater. Whenever I've come to Flip, it had to do with theater. And the other time, in 2007, I should say this because of the spotlights, which leave me a little bit edgy. The Kiss on the Asphalt by Nelson Rodriguez, this play, you didn't see the play yourselves. There's only one copy, which is Bialessa has. And she's going to stage the play someday to shame us. But A Kiss on the Asphalt, it was wonderful. It was a reading of the play done by non-actors. And I should say that it was one of the best plays. Sergio Santana doing Aprijo, one of the characters in The Kiss on the Asphalt, Beijo no Asfalto by Nelson Rodriguez. And he had read Nelson from start to finish. And we were all attempting to escape the spotlights, but not just him. Anja Leite Lopez was wonderful staging this play. So it's the second time that I participated in Flip, also connected to theater. So in a sense, unlike Natalia, which she just said, somebody sees theater in me in different moments in my career. But yesterday, Natalia said that she was going to ask something like this. I told her that my experience with theater as the feeling for the blue horse. I was very timid and shy. They were setting up the blue horse. They were staging 3 kids outside the show, but we were the horse inside the horse. So there are 3 crazy girls trying to run in the same direction and playing the blue horse. It was great because I realized that I could play theater under costume where nobody could see me as a horse, one of the 3 people in the horse, and this kids play with a blue horse. This is a special specter. So on the other hand, it's right new. For many years I did theater critique in Jornal do Brasil. It was a great experience for me. I should say also, I should tell you why, because theater, I didn't have any kind of support. When you do film reviews, people receive the press releases and their influence. They repeat what's stated in the press release. I had to face the plays that were happening right in front of me because there were no press releases for them. This was important for me. I had an experience, very material and direct experience, and I didn't have filters. It was great. It took a long time. It ended with a big fight. I criticized the play, which is a super production, and I was fired because of that, because I gave him a negative review for this super spectacle, this super play. Thanks to all this, I ended up as a professor. I taught at the Catholic University and elsewhere, but in the Fluminense Federal University, there was, in Unirio, there was admissions exams, and I've been, since 1985 to this day, I've been a professor of theater. So it's a great lesson. It's complemented with the relationship with some close people who work in theater regularly. So I normally follow their work very closely. I've already explained that, I think, so you understand that, right? Okay, thank you very much, Flora. A little bit to talk also about the way that Marion works and writes. I would like for Marion to tell us and tell the audience something that I learned yesterday speaking with you, which was the fact that most of the plays that you write are written, they're commissioned by people or at their invitation, or theater companies, acting companies. So your writing practice, that as a playwright, is a response to an invitation to conceive a play and devise a play. So this is very unique. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about this. Could you please, Marion Aubert? Of course, it's my pleasure. But first, I would like to thank the festival, Helena Fernanda, my publisher. It's wonderful to cross the ocean and reach here in Paraty after this long voyage. And I would also like to thank my daughter and administrator who made this trip with me. I am truly awed at being here with people to talk about literature. And I would love to thank, from the bottom of my heart, this reception, to talk a little bit about this. I have a theater company and have for 25 years that I work with. And of course, I end up responding to commissions or requests and from the directors and from actors, men and women, but oftentimes other actors and other theater companies, choreographers, musicians, sometimes the actors themselves, the men and women ask me to write a play. And I love this because this gives me, it's a way that I can shift and leave myself, not be glued to my own reality, which very quickly I resume later on, okay, and pick up on it later. So there's always this interplay with other people and discovering new territories and spaces. Thank you very much for your reply. And what do you think that makes your notion of authorship? Where does it come from, your notion of authorship? You actually, people in general, ask questions from writers. What are the materials, your raw materials for your writing? What's your inspiration in your writing? But in your case, this inspiration, this raw material, it comes from outside, from reality, other people's realities, the situations, and the commissions. So what does this tell us about your dimension of writing? Because I think, just to add a little bit more, okay? If I understood the question, the sources actually, they are extremely diverse. In other words, I can have very unlikely commissions like the textile industry from the 19th century, for example, in a specific region of France, or the story of the vestiges of colonialism in Algeria and working with the Gaulists and with the Odyssey. It's very broad as sources of inspiration. They're very diverse. And this is the case for this play, which we are addressing today. I worked with Jean Genet's play, but in dialogue with people from my daily routine. It happens that I do projects on youth. I meet a lot of people. I can have work which is quite well documented in life itself, in real material life and other works. I don't produce a hierarchical organization. I can be inspired by topics, let's say dominant, prevalent topics, or for more popular, mundane topics. All of this is all stitched together, okay? A bridge, okay? Flora, to turn the mic back to you. Something very important, I think, in all of your work, which is the intermediality. You have this passion with objects, practical objects, texts, which are unstable because they're open sometimes to other materials beyond the material, the language per se of theater or cinema or film. So this is a kind of opening. It's unlike the opening that Marion was talking about, but which generates a kind of instability in the notion of identity and homogeneity and community. So I would like for you to talk a little bit about this passion and why and what do these materials, these unstable materials which are intermediated, allow us as the audience.
Yes, I would like to say something about Marion's play. I find it very interesting, that Jean Genet is a reference. There's one thing in her play that, given a given moment, a character will say, they're going to accuse us of being Orientalists or Easternists. And it's interesting when they say that, because maybe some people know this here, but others not. There are interesting essays, beautiful, beautiful essay by Edouard Said, about Jean Genet. And it's beautiful. He talks about this meeting he had with Jean Genet. And one of them was really interesting. It was the Napoleon from the Black Panthers. with the University of Columbia, and a student was one of the translators, and he said, I support this movement, and the student would say horrible things, I hate the U.S., and would translate it completely differently. And Said was a bit, nervous with all that, and he said, well, the translator did a good translator. He translated what I was thinking, but I was unable to say. So that's a beautiful thing. But this essay by Eduardo Said, Flora? Just hold your microphone in the right place, please, Flora. Sorry. Yes, I do use the hands a lot, but sorry about that. And I'm also afraid of the microphone, but, well. So in this essay, he writes about two interesting things about Jean Genet. One is treason and this aversion to identity, while he's discussing his support of Jean Genet to the Palestine cause, and a time that no one would support, Sartre did not support, and then even he badmouths Sartre. So it's a beautiful text, actually, and I find it quite interesting. Marion was actually tackling this issue, talking about this issue, and this was something that actually happens. The writing of this play will happen based on the attack to Charlie Hebdo magazine. So her text will sort of flow through this ambiguity between a certain fear of terrorism and also a certain seduction on the other hand. And then there's one thing I find, again, beautiful. Regardless of the fact that the Man Who Falls, the play, has to do with homosexuals that are thrown out the windows, I might not draw the attention to the fact that it's similar to Beckett's play, All Who Fall, which also involves something that is unexplainable, which would be the murdering of a child that is thrown on the rails by a man. There's nothing said, but it's there. So now, going back, for many years ago, I participated in this event proposed by Maria Borba and Bruno Senescal, and I sat with the physician Mario Novello, and I was thinking about this sentence he says frequently, and once he said this at the Casa Rui Barbosa, which was, I caio, logo existo, which means I fall, therefore I exist. So by dropping and falling through all the instabilities, and I'm not going to do this here, but I don't want to break with the conversation, but I chose some plays, some scenes, not all will be seen here, but where the scene, unstable, this instability is constituted, and for different reasons. I would say that what really interests me in this theater is the cliff itself. In Beckett's play, there's this moment where you have, you have to climb, and this character who maybe has killed the child or not, it's not a cliff. So, in a certain way, again, as Natalia said, the theater itself, the theater with which I find it interesting to see the dialogue from different perspectives of their modes of production. And this is what has to do with the precipice, the cliff, and stability of a way of writing a play that will bring you instability. It makes you think about your own place, the place words have to be put, the place where arts will have a role. So it is a cliff that interests me. Should we show these excerpts of this play? I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess we can show maybe some excerpts. So we're going to have here on the screen without any sound while we're talking about. Well, there you have it. So this is the first. This is a video by Bob Wilson. This is the end of the 70s. It's called Video 50, Video 50, and he works with this like a fixed image, a backdrop, and then projected with someone in movement. So this is a set of scenes where you have this like gentleman hanging next to a cliff, and he's having fun, like different evolutions, and his foot is almost falling from the cliff, and still I think it by men who fall. So it's a succession of almost falling, and each time sometimes he's backwards, sometimes he's frontwards, and then at the end of the video, when it will last like maybe 50 minutes. This is the end. No, it's on the video. It will follow, and then there's another half. So it will go back and then be in the same position as it was in the beginning, not doing anything, just standing there statically in front of the cliff. I was going to associate this video to a scene from Evoé, from Tadeu Jango, with Zé Celso going with them to Greece, and then Zé Celso will stop close to this place in the cliff, and he was just too close and said, Zé Celso, don't go there, and he won't go, and he will continue to walk really next to the cliff, almost falling. And then you see rocks falling, and then he goes back again. And then a third scene also by Zé Celso, which was Zé Celso again, playwright and actor, Brazilian playwright and actor, where they sort of break the fourth wall. And they actually break a wall, not the fourth wall. So they break down a wall, and it breaks down, and he escapes, and he'll show where this escape will happen, and how the theater itself will break into the real world. So says this is theater, and he would show then his own play. And this is how he would close the scene. So he's telling us sort of a story, and it's in the work Evoé. This is a beautiful, beautiful scene from this play. It's beautiful to see that this broken wall and this beautiful way that Zé Celso had of showing his theater, his work, and making us feel what he was feeling. Zé Celso is a parameter for this scene, a scene that is able to bring this instability and produce also instability for all those who were there. And all the other plays that I was going to comment about, some that we won't be able to show here. One is from the group Código from Japeri in Rio de Janeiro, in the suburbs of Rio de Janeiro. So they work with Inimigos do Povo, and they work with different fences, presenting a different relation with the verticality that we have in the Brazilian and the Rio de Janeiro slums. So the whole time it's like someone going up the fence, down the fence, up the fence, down the fence, like a chain link fence. And so this whole idea of increasing your awareness, the political awareness. I didn't bring this because it was just too crazy, too wild, too difficult, and the sound is horrible. So, but it's really amazing. It's really amazing. So this is group Código, and it has to do with like rereading, and it has to do with what Marion does with Jean Genet. Amazing work. Another example we have, one is a play that almost no one saw. It was directed by Georgette Fadel. The text is by Paula Vilela, and it's called A Square Between Two Buildings, Graffiti on the Walls, close to a shop, and describing where this place was. So, and I guess do we have the scene here? I guess we have. Oh, there we have it. So actresses are Andrea Dantas and Lívia Paiva. And she's like a homeless person, and she is redefining herself. So then she sort of climbs this ladder, and she almost hangs herself on those lights there. So the hanging action doesn't happen, but her character will also disappear. There's this beautiful scene in which she sort of tries to hang herself. The text doesn't make much sense, but everything is interesting and lots of light. And there's this moment where she almost hangs herself, and then the other actress will start defining who is this woman who lives in the square, who is a homeless person. And it's beautiful because you see the different hers. She's will alter, and they're also unstable. And this is Lívia, the actress, defining who is this woman. And she's also swinging, and the swing creating interesting instability here. I guess the other scenes we have... Flora, may I interrupt? May I interrupt? Yeah. Then we'll stop and then we'll... Well, thank you. Thank you for bringing this and sharing these excerpts. What's the sound? What's going on here? It's not from your play. It's outside, right? Outside the tent. Yeah. Okay. Before going back to Marion, what in the political horizon, what opens the formal identification in your plays or whatever other works you have studied or thought about, things you have written about? This strength of this lack of harmony you sometimes refer to. The way you write, the way your critique is plays great attention to internal things within your text, but always with a political stance, a political way of seeing things. And well, but you never go out and say, I will have a political reading of this, something that will be seen through the formal understanding of this dissonance. So I would like you to maybe talk a little bit about this. What is the political horizon which is open through these different windows of this cliff? Of course, that each object to me is unique. So the analysis would have to be through each unique object. In this case, specifically, I'll give you an example. Yeah. So, for instance, the example that was missing of the Código group, it is almost geometric, geographical structure of the suburbs of Rio de Janeiro. And this geographic structure will be conducted with this imbalanced or dissonant bodies that will just scale the chain link fences. In the case of the square here, actually the two plays, for that matter, are plays around the time the coup and after the coup. They were written, the military coup, I believe. And so this was a fascinating thing. And I saw it more than once, where people from the buildings would be, cursing because they had like a film, a transparent film going around, surrounding the whole square. And they started writing things, democracy, what have you. And then people from the buildings would be cursing. And so the occupation of a public space would become also an intervention. And at the same time, the play itself was an interesting discussion about women, the women who no longer wanted to be held back home, or fixing the shower, unclogging the sink, and there were sort of issues. There would be, policemen coming to the square. So it was something political, and we had like graffitis also. And also people from the buildings, the surrounding buildings, like a fascist that will curse and saying that they should not do that play or hold that play there on that square. But regardless, if we consider from other angles, the last essay from this book, I tried to make this opposition between different areas, different understandings. Some artistic productions, to my understanding, the ones that I was specifically interested in. Valias was one of the artists that is here. And I tried to consider compounded structures, not collages actually, but composites such as the reference of Jasper Jones and Lenora and the clubs, the firearm clubs. So this collage sort of way of seeing, to be able to bring together the universe of arts as well as a stimulated violence universe, to the extent that they would use one of the firearm clubs with her. So these were different ways of bringing this instability, producing political effects, not immediate ones. In the case of the square, there's something that is immediate, but most of this work, like the one that Valias presented here in a flip a couple of years ago, in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, which were sort of a review from 2013. So in this case, it was a historical analysis from Lima Barreto. So the creation of this instability will allow you to redefine your media, and you also redefine the way you perceive things. So I was going to say one thing here, since I didn't show this, of the different, it's a BLS of operating the scene that I was going to show. It's a beautiful scene, and the film, not the play. But BLS operates with unstable material, so it will sort of climb and fall and climb and fall. The body is never still. It's a very, it's a monologue, and it is, and we have to consider that the bodies of actors that will go between plant, animals, things. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So I was considering, while I was listening to you, about the movement you participated with in terms of a theater for democracy at the time of that other president we had. So this is a democracy in which the theater, in terms of instability, would be almost essential to exist in a notion of democracy that is always in conflict, that needs to do this, that the politics, state, identity, community would be relaxed and controlling itself as a closed institute. So I thought, Marion, to go back to this dialogue with you, the fact that you told me that a partnership with one of your colleagues, an Algerian colleague of yours, was important for you to understand how a playwright or how theater would allow a country such as France that has this homogeneity notion, and something very important to the French society, the French Republic, that actually has not psychologically or politically developed the very violent intervention between France and Algeria. Your Algerian colleague, through this partnership, has allowed you to rethink things. One of the most important things you have to do all the time is to allow a theater to some way allow you to rethink the history of your country, the history, the colonial history of France. And this sometimes is something you see on your play, sometimes not. But there's like this underflow, this underpinning. So I would like to invite you to maybe comment about this.
Yes, it's very difficult to go deal with these issues in France and Europe. The stories don't ever stop cutting across not only artists but people in general, and this works very subtly and discreetly. And Jean Genet allows me to work. I often work where I'm able to interweave things. For example, concerning the restlessness and hiccups, I try to find points where I can distance myself from the grand history with the capital H and history with the small h. There emerges. I found young people in France whose parents were from Algeria. It was a project on football, and I met them in the dressing rooms, these young second generation Algerians, and I heard from them for the first time. I said, I'm French. I don't want to be French. I never heard in my childhood questions that I didn't ask myself. It wasn't a matter of an issue, and it was an issue for youth, and it's worrisome. How am I going to deal with this issue? So the plays, not just the opening and the questioning, I don't have solutions, but it's good not to hide, disguise, or erase these issues. And it would be important to transform, not always to find gaps, to be able to release and take different vibes and different horizons without being flattened or bowled over by reality, where we could truly separate ourselves, but to give force to regain our strength to say, let's work through these issues, let's not ignore them. In the play that was translated now, Men Who Fall, the political context is precise that Flora described the attacks on Charlie Hebdo, and this raised in France and Belgium. What appears there is work on the subject. What does it mean to be a person? Self, I. There's a relationship between I, id, or self in the play, which is not just a person. There are a multiplicity of persons inside themselves, which appear in the play, which actually are responding to the outer crisis. There's a relationship between the political situation, which is the context in which the play is written, and the work on the characters. So I would like for you to talk a little bit about this, how you view the subject, the character in this play, or perhaps in your own theater, in your own writing in general. In this play, it's a matter of a working group that decides to stage Genet's book, Our Lady of the Flowers. It's not an adaptation. And speaking and reading the play and everything, the characters in Genet's book and Genet's play invade us. Therefore, it's a matter where I can make this disappear. The identities, because they dissolve in each other and they can be interchangeable, and what emerges are figures, and figures which are sometimes just that what they are. In other words, we locked inside our own bodies, living bodies born in this or that country and locked inside into the force of the word and theater. They become much greater than they themselves. And the work there was also a commission on homosexuality. And the character dreams. It's a man who dreamed that he's a woman, and it involves a specter. And also work with the expansion and the increase in the bodies, and no longer being yourself, always working with this difference, since we are reduced to ourselves, and how we can escape that, how we can find the gaps and cracks to escape that. This concern to not remain in our narrow selves, and to say there exists a possible game There are many of us inside ourselves. We are many and plural. It's very concrete and material. Everybody has this experience of not just being alone inside ourselves. We're very haunted. When I came here, I didn't know Pagu, and I already began to learn about her work, and I heard other voices different from our own voices, not only what we think, but what we feel deeply. Very often, very frequently, we are spoken, and it's a matter of knowing who is speaking through us and what we are telling, where this word comes from. And this can be something very unique, but to have this belong to us, have this appear as part of our work. So let's continue along this line, but I would just like to tell the audience that you can send questions up to the head table. I don't know how this works. There's some slips of paper which you can write your questions on, send questions to the stage for Marion and to Flora. So, Marion, I would like to continue somewhat with what you were saying, and for talking about the I, the self. It's not just one self. There are many voices in one person. In theater, there is the text. The theatrical text has the singularity that it exists to be embodied, to find a body, to enter into a body, to have a voice, or many voices, because the staging, the play is potentially infinite. It's not done just for one voice or one person or one actor. So this issue of the centrality of the multiple voices and the multiple bodies which transform the theatrical text, the play. I don't know if I understood exactly the question, but I am going to answer it nevertheless. Actually, I write theater for that. It's many bodies. And I believe that I understood something of literature, even not writing literature. And with theater, I understood and learned that what we have is narrative, something which is connected to life. That's why the dead people are there. We give them not only voices but bodies. So it's always extremely important, literally, to work with the idea of the word, the incarnate, the word incarnate. And this is unlike the images where we're in the present. This can always happen. This is extremely stimulating because, of course, accidents can occur, but there can be many opportunities. At any moment, I can die here on the stage. Somebody can fall and get hurt, but it belongs only to theater. It's not to literature. So, in fact, I don't know if we're going to have enough time, especially if you are hot, but it's not the same thing to hear me read and to see the play that I wrote being staged in a man's body or another body. We know that the same text can tell things that are totally different. In the body of a child, for example, the obscenities from a child's body are very different. So also it's wonderful in writing, in theatrical writing, that there's always something that's always missing, which is asks for the body of the others, even the audience's body. I think I write theater also oftentimes to address people, the audience, and to hear the feedback from the audience. This is very unstable, and that's what makes theater so beautiful. A question here from the audience that I'm going to ask for both of our guest writers, Flora and Marion. The new social networks led the theater to the cliff, to the end, or the precipice? Is theater no longer essential because of the new social networks? No. in a word. And would you like to say anything else besides no? I can give an example, something that happened. A lot of people found. Please, otherwise the audience can't hear you. Hold the microphone close to your mouth. Okay, great. A lot of people observed that unlike what was expected after the lockdown, collective lockdown with COVID, going to the theater became much bigger in Brazil. We realized that even horrible plays, okay, I'm not judging them, of course. It's not like unlike before, but plays, the theaters are full now. There's a kind of, people have a desire to see other bodies breathing and moving in front of people. In this sense, I believe that also there's an interesting issue, so that I think that perhaps even theater becomes stronger, I believe, from the point of view of affirmation of people living, breathing bodies, moving, sweating on the stage, and even with networks, because actually it's a kind of anti-green situation where you in fact have to face people sitting in front of you, which are moving around and shifting around in their seats, and people and fidgeting, people that are acting with you next to you on the stage. So there's a huge hypothetical potential, which is great, which does not mean that the conditions sometimes are all that great, okay? But afterwards, I'm going to have to show you a play, right? Let's see. Another play, okay. Who knows if we have enough time. Marion, the issue of very quickly, I second lock, stock, and barrel what Flora just said. And I teach this generally. I teach this. I'm a professor for young people, young writers, and I see how language changed, how they've grasped language and appropriated it. It's another kind of raw material. Fine, we are much better amongst ourselves, but also who didn't experience lockdown that we've gone through with COVID-19, who has not seen the screen? We needed this connection to the screen. Everybody experienced that. So it's important. I refuse to be desperate, in other words, because of lockdown. I refuse to be so, to give in. You said that you teach theater to young people, and I would like for you to talk a little bit about this, your experience of teaching and having young people close to the theater and staging, acting, writing, playwriting, how you move this interest for theater, this passion for the body. So, in different ways, I am responsible for the Department of Writing. I follow some writers and have for 20, 30 years. So when they come to my school, they are already writers. So I have followed them, but we exchange ideas. I learn from them as well. And I learn a lot of things from that in the social networks. I've already seen things, fantastic things, plays written during lockdown, young people who wrote plays, a whole play solely on Instagram. And it is strong and moving. We see their loneliness and solitude. They grow with that experience, and this allows me to be connected and great. What happens is that I can find children and teenagers working with actors as well. I don't have a method, so I can't say what my method is because I don't have one. This depends on the audience, and I adjust this and fine-tune it. But it's important to share with them the taste for literature, the joy, which is still associated with how one teaches theater, how people taught French. I have terrible memories of how we can escape this gang, escape this in literature. And it's a kind of sport because it's a game. It's a huge joy for me to practice Kung Fu. It's a teamwork, and it's a relationship with games, with to pleasure and jubilation. I say a lot of things, but basically that's it in a nutshell. Flora, would you like to describe another video for us? We'll allow you a few more minutes. Would you like to? You wanted to show another video? Did you want to or not? Another play? Because in the middle of those unstable scenes, there emerged another unstable scene last week, which is a exposition by a student, a mechanical scene, which actually it's a chorus, a refrain, part of Fernanda Montenegro when she was sworn in the Brazilian Academy of Literature. It's interesting as well, but it's a speech, her inaugural speech, and it's all fragmented with fragmented narratives by actresses, various different, and the Supreme Court judges and so forth, and lines, her own lines on Brazil and everything by Glauber Rocha and Darcy Ribeiro. And all this is mixed together and shown on this wall, and the sound of these voices. But there's a huge curtain in the theater. They raise the curtain and drop it at the end. And I could go back to that video by Bob Wilson. These are especially chairs, musical instruments, and so forth. And we watch the curtain rising. One of the chairs is like an electric chair as well. So it trembles. It's terrible. But I filmed it because I wanted to show this, but actually it was something that a student over the course of the years, it was an artist, not just in his writing, the student's writing. And in Pagu, I talked about Pagu. For me, one of the things that I think is great about Industrial Park, Pagu's novel, is that you can read part of the text as a label, and I think it's spectacular. You read that, and it's dodecalion. You have the scenes that she builds, in addition to the dialogical aspect that appears, the dialogue, loose dialogue. It's a beautiful line at the end of the salespeople, but it's great. And I think is interesting is writing. It's almost dodecalion in all the novel Industrial Park by Pagu, and the student is someone who had acquired a kind of writing and dialogue with theater, both in texts which are actually plays, but also constructions of parameters, contrasting parameters that are almost dialogues, and then they use in the classical works in Malmö, and some of them are beautiful, actually beautiful. And the muse and the chorus, you have a chorus in dialogue with the muse who speaks to you all the time. In this case, it's the chorus, but this unstable scene that he builds is very beautiful as well. So I filmed 2 fragments of that. They're just a few seconds.
The one by Bia, whenever you see the, this is Nuno's exhibit. This is what Flora was describing. And then, you have words being read. And he builds this theater with curtains, red velvet curtains that go up and down. And then the same questions regarding Brazil. These are things that will repeat themselves. A little bit about the terra in transi, desperation. And this is what is projected there. And it will be accompanied by this floating. That's me, of course. I am filming it upside down, sideways. I'm sorry. Well, sorry. But actually, it looks good. I like it sideways. One of the things you've already talked about Nuno Ramos' work is that in his work, everything has a voice. The chairs, the objects, and it's not only the characters, but everything has a voice. In the sense, everything is a source for his work. And this is how it has to be, unstable and undone. I'm okay. So let me just check how we're doing in time. So Marion, I would also like to invite you to talk to us about what or who speaks in your plays, who has a voice in your plays. in terms of the genealogies and the influences or literary characteristics that will go in your text and will talk within the translation of this other text that will be passed through yours. In the case of Men Who Follow, it would be the Jean Genet text. From what I read in an interview of yours, it's like you were doing a translation of Jean Genet, not an adaptation. You'll translate into something else that will start to speak within your text. Yes, exactly. When I was requested to speak based on Notre-Dame des Fleurs, Our Lady of Flowers, it was not an adaptation because the novel is sumptuous. It is a monument. So it was not a matter of doing something about Genet. But what I told myself is that it would allow me, once again, at least I thought that, Jean Genet, this man that I did not meet in life, but I invited him to come to my house to talk to me. So this is what I have. This is the Jean Genet that I invented to come to talk to me. So it's like a partner, someone I would talk to. And to have this, the last play I wrote was based on a French actor called Patrick Devers, who was very well known in France, and he killed himself, committed suicide. So I dreamt about it. He came to visit me, so it has to do with these writers that we are able to meet. So what interests me is to be able to to think against myself, to have some opposition, think about things I have never thought about, talk about sexualities that are not mine. It's always this. So this whole idea of alternity. And I know that I'm not fooled because I know very well that I am not Jean Genet, that it's impossible to become Natalia. It's impossible. But on the other hand, what it is possible is to become this Natalia that I imagine, the one I will project myself into. So once again, they come into my work, within my work, and I will be able to dialogue and be questioned by them. So they are people I, as I said, dialogue with. And the advantage that we were talking about with the talking to the dead, those that have not yet been born, those that come from different times. So it's a genealogy. It's so vast. It's a huge universe, and this is a universe, and this is wonderful. Thank you, Marion. There are a couple of questions from the audience. I would like to address them to both of you. Maybe a bit more for Flora, I'm not sure. One of these questions says, we see, this is straight for you, Flora. We don't see that many teenagers going to the theater nowadays. What could you suggest to improve this interaction with teenagers, to having teenagers come to the theater? And the next question, I guess, is linked to this, which is this participant says that a theater critic will be reduced smaller from one year to the next, and maybe lack of a budget or interest, even though we are celebrating Pagu for this Flippy, and in her life she was a literary and theater critic about so what is the risk of a critique of being lessened? So it's both two things. Not that many young people going to a theater, and the second thing is the theater critique. It's not a matter of just theater. I guess in a certain way we only read, thinking about the greater media, we only see these releases that are very ill-written. Just, the publishing house will just show something. So, but it's as if it would be enough to do these reviews. Oh, your play is beautiful on Instagram or Twitter or what have you. And they think that this will be enough to bring the public into your theater. So there's this interesting text by Virginia Woolf called Reviewing. If you want to read it, it is in this anthology by Leonardo Freud. And it's very good. not the Freud, I'm sorry. So she really draws her attention to this. You know, this has happened with a certain proliferation of the number of comments, and any comment, authored or not, would be as good as any kind of more analytical, well-done critique or review. And they said that this would serve the purpose to the ego of the authors and to the publishing house, because, you know, you'll just be applauding anything. The more people applauding, the better. And so we are living the culture that people will just be pleased in becoming an instant celeb. So the tendency is to repeat yourself in nauseam, because you're being applauded, you're being positively reviewed, and then they all of a sudden get sick of you and you're canceled. They start inventing someone new, another creature. So I guess this is not only in theater, but everywhere. What is sometimes bringing great angst to all of us, for us who actually teach theater, is that it is amazing that the students themselves are just happy to have that, you know, a comment from anyone on Instagram or Facebook, and nothing more in depth. So what does this mean? It's a more immediate pleasure of the applause. We no longer have, for instance, theater reviews in newspapers nowadays. I feel that people don't want to write negatively, for instance, about certain things. I'm not comfortable doing that. I wait for maybe the moment I can publish maybe a short story, an essay, and I guess many people are afraid, actually. They don't want to write reviews anymore. For instance, I'll give you an example. O mundo à sua disposição. There was nothing, not a single line written. BLS wrote the plays that no one said anything about. It's the same as books, and book reviews are so important. When we came here on the way here, Farias was saying it's amazing. Books that Augusto Campos, wonderful works, wonderful editions. It's interesting to discussion as a book edition. No one purchases, no one writes about it, no one talks about it. People don't even know that exists. It's not that they wouldn't buy it. They maybe would buy it if they knew that that book existed, if there was a minimum advertising review. Regarding the youngsters, it's a general comment. At a given moment, maybe they will enjoy going to the theater by other routes, other things, maybe word of mouth, or maybe a performance on the streets that will happen here and there. So there's no way you can make a person enjoy the theater. But most of the students we have in theater, our theater college, most of them have never been there. Sometimes it has to do with money, location of the theaters, many factors. But one thing which is also clear and we have to consider is that the schools themselves, you can see the change of the syllabus for high school. Arts are no longer part of it. Arts, philosophy, social studies. And this is something that is happening without anyone protesting, manifesting, or doing something about it. So, of course, this will influence the possibility of some of these students really benefiting from this and thinking that maybe them themselves can be part of it. They will be reduced to a technical education that will make people less interesting and smaller. Not only in terms of the public attending theaters, private schools also are same thing. You know, they just want to do, I don't know, math and sciences. The school that I participated in, you know, school was sometimes boring, sometimes it was good, but we had the history of art during my high school, and it's wonderful. So, and we had, of course, we read books. We didn't have theater, but you were able to read plays. I remember a teacher, pianos, Margarita de Souza Neves. She was a history teacher at PUC. She was my school teacher also. She would read. She would bring the girls together. It was a girls-only school. So she brought plays for us to read. So at 14, we were reading Antigona. So teachers still do this, but these are special people and that are going swimming against the current, swimming upriver. So this is a good moment for us to. We have to close this roundtable with Marion Aubert reading her play. Do we have time? Well, we have time. We have time for that. You're good. You're going to read the excerpt you chose. Okay? So, I'm going to read the excerpt. It's right in the middle of the play. No, don't try to understand. I'm going to talk about all characters at the same time. Maybe I would just let you know that and Jean Genet, he wrote in 1943, Genet wrote, he wasn't in prison and he was in his cell. And so for 200 pages, he was masturbating. So it's, so this pages and pages of masturbation, sexual energy, his life, his the faces of his lovers, and it is amazing, prodigious. So here in this excerpt here, Divine, who is depressed, Divine, who is Cédric's character. Cédric is a character and he's a man, so he will be dreaming of himself as a woman. So he was abandoned by his lover, and then so he's the whole abandonment. He will go through different ages. So I will try to read it, this excerpt. So, Divine was abandoned, Divine alone in her apartment, and but yes, I want everything, everything. I hope to have everything. I'm alone, but she's translated abandoned. She is denied, and she does not have any crisis. Yes, Divine, I will not close my curtains. I have humiliation, we have despair, and she will tear down the curtains and she will cry, she will spit, she will scream and say, Divine doesn't have any crisis. No, she is depressed. She will go into a serious, deep depression. She will stay sleeping. When she's okay, she will just open the windows and feel comfortable. She's very depressed. Divine will throw herself in the remembrance of Aubert, the fisherman from the 60s. And she felt that exactly. Sometimes she wants to flee, and she will hold back under her rage. I'm going to fuck you. I'm going to love you. I'm going to kill you. Leave me. Leave me alone. Get out of my mind. But I love you. I love you. I love you. You're my life. You understand nothing. How could you leave me? No, come back. Pretend that you're here. Pretend you're just passing by. Call me. Call me. Just show me you love me. And she says, she will insult herself. You prostitute, you whore. So they just want to leave. She will leave. She will eat a little something that the police officer gave her. She will just throw things around her apartment. She will feel abandoned. Divine will feel angelic, the Marquis of the Angels. I was crazy. Crazy? I'm crazy just for waiting. For waiting for what? For what is being said. So what? Say it. I love you. And given the series, Divine will go back to her infancy, to her childhood, and she will find love for the first time. And love is a boy, and she doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know who I am. I don't know who he is. I am a girl. I am a girl. And she laughs. I'm a girl. I'm a girl. And in the city, there's a boy. He's a horrible boy. He's poor. He doesn't have parents. I can stop here if that was a sign. As you wish. Well, I'll try to continue. Maybe he was a child, and he become the flower of her desire, the post-colonial domination. And like Alberto, he's also called Alberto, the old one. Hello, hello. Are you going to live in that stone house? Yes. Would you say yes? Yes. So Alberto will pass his tongue on his lips. Would you have me in your mouth? Okay, okay. Have you ever seen snakes? No, we can no longer see it. So, and they will call Ernestine, leave me alone. Goodbye, Mom. No, Lou will not follow her. He will dance, he will dance, he will dance everywhere over his bicycle. He dances, and sometimes Alberto doesn't see me, and he will just say, I'm in love. He will kiss the leaves, and he will eat. And I am hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. So he wants to remember when she would have dinner at the table. And you will always judge. You will see things that are worse, and you feel pity, a certain pederast, and you feel sorry for me. But it's a fact. It was the beginning of the life, and then you'll have the beautiful white linen. And then I washed myself, and then she will go to the bathroom to just feel the scent of shit. And she said, I made this shit. And she's happy that she was able to do something. And she said, I did nothing. And she will laugh. She'll be happy. I'm happy. Because Alberto will take over the whole room. And then the suspense while I turn the page. And then he is created with his strong legs. He is 16, but he looked like a man. And I will let myself go. And he would sing, and he will whistle. And sometimes the divine would feel the man that he was, because he's a true man, the original one, perfect man that she considers as a god. How fool I am. Is this my God? I will offer myself in sacrifice. She didn't know everything, but everything in her would scream, have me, have me, have me. Have her, have her. And then the rivers would say, take her, take her. She wanted to be taken. She wanted to be she wanted to be captive by the angels. And then Aubert will come and says, I'm going to show you one thing. Well, I don't know what to say. Well, what happened to you? Can't you say anything? Oh, I'm just stupid. Well, I was similar in 162. Well, you see? And then he will be in silence, a silence in the different lives. And she would say, come and touch me and drink and live. And in the silence, that was the language of the land. Alberto will then rape the boy and said, oh, this is really nice memory I have. And when he comes back, she will come back and she will be a bit rudimentary, as if Alberto had contaminated her. And Divine already knew that she will not leave her depression. And then I go back to the nowadays. And then there's this attempt in Brussels, 31 dead. And, well, at least I think I agree with the police officers now. Thank you, Marion. Thank you, Flora. Thank you to our public. Thank you for participating in this amazing round table. I would like to remind you that Marion will be at the Flips bookshop to sign her play, to sign her books. Right after this, yes. Oh, sorry, Flora will also be there. I forgot my text here. So Flora and Marion will be together at the Flips bookshop to sign their autographs. Thank you so much.
Merci à toi.
I would like to thank you, and thank you, Natalia.